This is a reading from the Notebooks by Maria Valtorta, 1945 to 1950. February 28th, 1947. In regard to the number of the holy innocents who perished in Herod's massacre, Jesus says the number was 320, between those in Bethlehem and those in the countryside, and I shall further specify that 188 of them were from Bethlehem, whereas 132 were from the countryside, stricken within a vast radius by Herod's envoys to exterminate the infants. Among those killed, there were also 64 little girls, not identified as such by the assassins, who killed in the midst of darkness, confusion, and frenzy to act quickly before anything could intervene to put an end to the slaughter. March 14th, 1947. I will always come, and for you alone, and it will be even sweeter because I will be entirely for you. I will not take anything of what you have deserved away from you, to see me and to hear me. I will take you higher up. Until now, you also had to be Martha, because you had to work actively to be the spokesman. From now on you shall only contemplate, and I will come to you, and make you forget the world in my love. From Jesus' words to me on March 14th, 1947. Footnote 306. Maria Valtorta's birthday. March 16th, 1947. Sweetness and promises of blessed Jesus. I am indicating today what has been my joy for 3 days now. On the night between the 12th and the 13th, as I suffered such agonies from polyneuritis, which disturbed my heart as well, Jesus presented himself to me with his most sacred heart, uncovered in the middle of his chest, and entirely surrounded by quivering flames, more luminous than gold. He said to me, "Come and drink," and advancing near my bed in such a way that I could rest my head on his chest, he drew me to himself, pressing my mouth upon the wound in his heart, and squeezing his heart with his hand, so that the blood would flow out copiously, and with my mouth pressed against the edges of the divine wound, I drank. I felt like a suckling clinging to a mother's breast. As I was about to suck, I thought I would perceive the taste of the blood, as on the occasion when Jesus had me drink from a chalice filled with his blood. Footnote 307, March 29th to 30th, 1945. I still remembered that taste, that somewhat thick, glutinous liquid that smells characteristic of living blood. Yet, from the first sip which went down my throat, I perceived a sweetness, a fragrance, which no honey or sugar or anything else which was sweet and aromatized could possess. Sweet, fragrant, sweeter than a mother's milk, more inebriating than wine, more fragrant than a balm. I find no words to describe what that blood was like for me. And the flames? On approaching, I was a bit afraid of that fire. At a distance I sensed the living warmth of those quivering flames, and the closer Jesus drew me to himself, the more I felt I was getting near a burning furnace. And I'm afraid of fire. I cannot bear even the slightest heat. But when my head was against the divine heart, and thus enveloped in the singing flames, for in quivering they sent forth a kind of very melodious notes, totally unlike the rumbling and hissing of wood in the fireplaces or the roar of blazing fires, I felt the tongues of fire caressing my cheeks and hair, working their way into them, as gentle and fresh as an April wind, like a sunbeam on an April morning wet with dew. Yes, it was really like that, and as I savored these soft sensations, I thought, for my ecstasy is wonderful in this respect, it allows me to reflect, analyze, consider what I am experiencing, and remember afterwards. I don't know if it happens this way with other ecstatics while savoring in that manner, enveloped in the flames of the divine heart. I thought the flames in the midst of which the 3 young men of whom Daniel speaks strolled singing must have been like that. He made the inside of the furnace like a place where a dew-laden breeze was blowing. Footnote 308, Daniel chapter 3 verse 50. Yes, just like that. The fragrant wind of the morning in the soft light of the first sun. And Jesus, after holding me for a long time upon his heart, against his heart, so that I would drink, separated me from it, holding my head in his hands, uplifted towards him, bending over me, so that though I was no longer drinking from his heart, and was no longer enveloped in the living flames, I was drinking in his breath and his words, and was enveloped in the fire of his glance. He said to me, "You see, in this respect, every fire, including the fire of purgation, differs from my fire. For this fire of mine involves most perfect charity, and does no harm, even to do good. And this is the fire I reserve for you, this alone. This is what my love is for you. A fire which comforts and does not burn, light, harmony, a soft caress. And this is what my blood is for you, sweetness and strength. And this is what I do for you, to compensate you for men. I squeeze out my blood for you, as a mother does with milk, for the children born to her. You, my daughter, this is how I love you." Since then, these words and this vision have been repeated every day, and Jesus always adds these words now. "And this is the way we will love one another in the future. This is what I will give you as a reward for your faithful service. This is your future as long as you live on earth. Afterwards, there will be perfect union." This morning, even Father Mariano, who had come to bring Holy Communion, realized that I was farther from the earth than the sun is. I was in Jesus, to drink his blood and rejoice in the fire of his love. Some days ago, too, and precisely on March 14th, my 50th birthday, after receiving the vision in which Jesus, heading for Jerusalem, went singing psalms, just as the pilgrims of Israel do, as I was saying to myself, how I will miss these songs afterwards when the gospel is finished. What a longing for the perfect song of Jesus, and for his looks, when he speaks to the crowds or his friends. He appeared to me, saying, "Why do you say this? Can you think I would deprive you of that because you finished the work? I will always come, and for you alone, and it will be even sweeter, because it will be entirely for you. My little John, faithful spokesman, I will not take anything which you have merited away from you, to see me and hear me, but on the contrary, I will take you higher up into the pure spheres of pure contemplation, enveloped in the mystical veils which will form a tent for our love. You shall be only Mary. Now you had to be Martha too, because you had to work actively to be the spokesman. From now on, you shall only contemplate, and everything will be beautiful. Be happy. Very. I love you greatly, and you love me greatly, our two loves. Heaven is already welcoming you. The lovely season is coming, O my hidden turtle dove, and I will come to you in the middle of the living fragrance of the vines and the orchards, and I will make you forget the world in my love." Footnote 309. These expressions, adorned with biblical images, Song of Songs, chapter 2, verses 10 to 17, and accentuated by underlining in the handwritten text, our italics, become impressive if we recall that Maria Valtorta spent the final years of her earthly existence in a progressive state of gentle apathy and mysterious psychological isolation. Other references to these images are found in Valtortan texts. For example, see the entry for June 21st in the notebooks, 1944. Oh, it is impossible to state what this is. April the 1st, 1947, Tuesday of Holy Week. The 14th anniversary of my crucifixion. Jesus says, before the great silence of Good Friday, as with the apostles, the Word wants to speak to the souls he loves, to give the counsels of love. I appear to you already bound and aching in my members, but love knows no chains, and love is strong and healthy for you. Jesus always has a desire to speak to his beloved ones. I ardently desire to communicate myself in words to the souls that, like flowers, rise up to the stars in the night, with their calyx open, to drink in the dew raining down from the sky, and bringing refreshments from the scorching flames of the day. And they anxiously bend towards the east to welcome the light of the dawn as comfort for the darkness of the night. The east, me, the day, the world, which flares up and brings exhaustion, the dew, wisdom who speaks to you, the darkness of the night, also the world with its interests and selfishness, the world which penetrates everywhere and brings obscurity with the thick mists of the smoking self, even where there ought to be only the luminous air of charity, the dawn, I who am coming, the joyful light for whoever wants to receive me. And I say to you, be good, and imitate me in your little passion, so little in comparison to mine. Have charity, which spreads out humbly and generously to the blameworthy too, as I did at the Last Supper. Have complete fusion with God's will, as I did in Gethsemane. You will never get to the point of sweating blood, for what heaven requires of creatures is nothing when compared to everything, which is what heaven required of me. Have a friendly greeting, even for the Judas who is wherever a master and disciples are. Have the heroism of silence in the face of offenses, and of speaking at the right time to serve truth and glorify God, as I did in the halls of the Synedrium and the Praetorium and the nefarious halls of Herod's palace. Have solicitous zeal in subjecting yourselves to torments and shouldering your pain, as I did when subjecting myself to scourging and embracing the cross. Have constancy in ascending, even if the cross weighs you down, and do not get demoralized if weakness causes you to fall. I remind you that I fell increasingly as I got closer to the goal, to symbolize the fact that Satan places ever greater obstacles as the soul approaches the altar of sacrifice, which makes it a host like me and a continuator of me. Get back up and continue on. God is able to distinguish between one fall and another, and he is a Father who lifts up once more those who fall, not out of malice, but because of the voluntary weakness of creatures and the impediments of Satan. Have complete detachment, complete dispossession, even of the most licit things, to carry out the ultimate wishes of God, as I did in detaching myself from my mother, divesting myself of my clothing, and giving up life. And finally, forgive. Forgive those who think differently from the way you do, and want what you do not want, as I forgave the heads of the Synedrium, who wanted my death so as to reign alone. Consider that they are punishing themselves by wanting what they will not be happy with, and that they need your forgiveness to receive comfort when they understand their error. Do not set limits upon these words